Okay, this is my second time to take the dash off to get to the radio. I'm installing a video camera and I wanted to show you, this is my 2006 F250. So first thing you want to do is take a soft pry tool. Where did I set mine? Something like this. You can buy at Harbor Freight or wherever, and just pry this back in all points to where it's completely loose. It's just popped on. Then from there we're going to have to disassemble multiple electrical connections from the back of this panel that are associated with all the switches. Everything from pedal adjustment to headlights to the four-wheel drive unit. All of these things have plugs on them. The AC system, all of those have plugs, and they all have to be disconnected in order to move this panel out of the way to access the radio area. So I'm going to begin loosening all those clips now. I'm going to start by showing you the one back here. It's real tight when you first start. Until you get some of them released, the panel won't start moving away. Okay, so to get the panel to come out as far as it has, I tilted the wheel down and I put the key in the ignition and pulled it all the way down as far as the lever will go here to get this to back away. Now I'm fighting a connector back here on the four-wheel drive area. I think this is the power window. It looks like the slide window in the back. And sometimes it's easier to release these by pushing the plug through forward and releasing and grabbing the clip than it is to try to reaching behind the panel this way to get to them. So this one, I can say for me, is definitely easier to push it out the front. So that's what I'm doing as a tip. Okay, as an overview of what all plugs to release, we got cigarette lighter plugs and components here. Here you got four-wheel drive components, rear sliding windows, these types of options, and then of course the headlights elements and the pedal adjustment. So that gives you an idea what it takes to get that panel out. Now the panel itself just unsnaps with all of these white clips you see here. However, the struggle is getting every one of the plugs loose from all the different connectors that are on the back of the panels. So there you go. So the goal here is to get to the back of my Pioneer unit. This is certainly an aftermarket, not factory. This is an AVH X2600 BT. I'm going to be adding a camera, a rear view camera to this. And so I'm pulling the back of the radio out so I can see where the wires need to go to attach to this head unit. Okay, on this particular head unit, I can see down here that I've got an RCN right here. That's reverse camera in. And pointing us right here in the face, you can see that this wire is already marked from the Pioneer wiring harness. This says reverse gear signal input. This means in order for the camera to work when I go into reverse, I'm going to have to find a wire somewhere in the dash up front area that sends a reverse signal to the reverse lights to let me know that, to let the radio know that it's in reverse and the camera should come on. So that's probably going to be the most challenging task in all of this, is just finding that wire. Hooking it up, of course, is a no-brainer. Okay, after doing a little reading on the web, I need to go to behind the fuse box because evidently there is a black wire with a pink stripe. And so we're going to just pull that kick panel off there, and we need to remove a couple, looks like one, two, at least two screws, maybe that one, I'm not sure, I'll find out here in a minute. And we drop the fuse box down, we're going to look for that black and pink wire and test it. Okay, 4 screws later, removed, and there's, you see the 4 screws. They were 10 millimeter. I can spot a black pink that I'm going to probe right down there. I'm going to loosen the connector and probe it. As you can see, let's see if I can hold the camera and point to it at the same time. There we go. You see the black pink right there, my finger's behind. That's the one we're going to probe and test and see if that'll give us a reverse signal. Okay, I just validated that the black-pink wire on this wiring harness is the correct one to tap into. However, the signal coming out 12 volts is coming out of the fuse box. The wire itself is supplying something, so it's not hot when you test it, nothing happens. It has to be plugged into the back of the fuse panel for it to receive the voltage coming from the signal. So obviously one of these other wires is providing input into the system, but this is the output wire and is perfectly good to tap into and run to the radio for a reverse signal. Okay, before I button everything up and I put the dash and all back together, I wanted to pre-test the wiring before running it under the chassis. So what I did was I plugged it into the camera coming out the bottom here, and one of the wire leads is for power. I'm going to have to find a power source, so I used my battery jumper as my 12-volt power source. The other lead is just the video wire itself and a protective sheathing, as you can see here, and I ran it up through the door and up into the back of the radio head to make sure I had plugged it into the correct slot, which was that RC input that we talked about. So that's plugged in. The wiring is hooked up for the reverse wire switch. I've pre-tested it. It's all working, and so we're good there. Okay, now I'm going to get my creeper, my can of zip ties, and I'm going to crawl underneath, and I'm going to start at the rear, plug it into the camera, and begin fishing this wire up to the front. I have crawled underneath and examined the frame rails. I'm going to run it up the frame rail that's on the gas tank side and avoid the muffler side, just so that heat doesn't affect the cable that I'm routing. I just feel like that's a better deal. Plus, when I end up front, I'll be on the driver's side where most of the wires come through the firewall anyway. So that's my plan. Let's get it done. Okay, after running all the wire down the left-hand side of the driver's side of the vehicle and up, I ended up drilling a hole right here in this location, right by the emergency brake area, to get the wire through. That left me about 6 feet of wire remaining, which is enough to get to the radio. So if you want to see under the hood where I came through, I drilled from inside the car because it was easier. But here, let's see if I can get the camera in an angle that can see it. There it is. So you can see I drilled between, got to get the camera to focus there. There we go. No, still won't do it. So right there, you can see I drilled between those two grommets there, those two passageways, and then I put a grommet in the hole to pass the cable through. Now what's left is to pass this wire through the back of everything, up under the dash, and to the back of the radio, where I had it plugged in earlier for testing. Okay, let's review the connections on the back of the radio. So I finished routing the video wire up to the back of the radio. It's plugged into the bottom corner over here into the plug that says, I think it says RCN, remote camera in. And then as you can see here, this was the wire that was labeled. You don't see the label right now. This was the wire, the purple white wire that was labeled reverse input. And this is the wire I added to come from the fuse box over here from the black purple wire that we found there. That's just a review of all the wiring for the radio, and that's all that I needed to connect the camera. Okay, before you put all this faceplate back together, remember to test all your connections before you do that. So I'm going to go ahead and let's go ahead and start the vehicle. We'll wait for the radio to come on. Now I'm going to put it in reverse. And we're on it to come up. Caution, screen image may appear reversed. but it's not coming up. So I'm assuming that my connection is not good. Let me go check my connections. That's why we do this test. Let's also check the manual method, which is to turn the camera on this way. Yeah, see, I'm not getting an image, so something's wrong with my wiring. Let me go look at it. I got ahead of myself. I still got my power wires, which are not long enough to run up to the dash, but they're long enough to reach power in the back, which I'm going to do. So I don't even have these connected. That's why the camera's not coming on. Okay, I have power hooked up, so we're going to do test number 2 here. Engine on, wait for radio to appear, put it in reverse, and we have image. Perfect. Now I can reassemble the dash and reconnect the power at the back. Okay, the last step in all of this was actually supplying power on the camera line. This is the fuse line that we were given. So what I've done is I've come to the back and I've tied into the 7-way trailer hitch. The ground wire going to the white and the positive wire going to the black. Of course, those were tested with a voltometer to make sure that was correct. And the camera is on. So, all good there. I really didn't like having to go through here. I would have rather have had these long enough to go up through and into the dashboard area. But this is the best I can do with what I've been given.